It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you on this thing we call Emil Amok Takeout because we're still taking out, remember, man, mandates all over the place. The takeout is alive. This is what I like to call the micro talk show. The AAPI and the AAX, although you don't have to be an AAPI or an AAX. You could just be an ALL, all the rest of us, because this is the show for people who just want to get in touch with the Asian American perspective, who are maybe synonymous with, or maybe in sync with the Asian American community. You see yourself as an ally. Maybe you're a BIPOC. You know, I was with a group and they use that term like no one else I know. They use BIPOC. But, you know, you say it enough times and it becomes a thing. Black, indigenous, person of color, or BIPOC. I guess it's a thing. It incorporates us all. But, you know, all is all. And that's what we talk about the news. Today we're going to talk about testing. I got one of these things. You know, this is like gold out there. You know, you can't. You need your mask and you need your test. I'm going to talk about the test more today. Talk about the new play, Jean-Michel Basquiat, The Slave Who Loved Caviar, Ishmael Reed's play, opening tonight, in New York City at the Theater for the New City in New York City. And tomorrow I'll have a link that will let you know how to live stream it from wherever you are. You don't have to be in New York. So, The Slave Who Loved Caviar, a satire on the relationship between Andy Warhol and Jean-Michel Basquiat, written by the award-winning MacArthur genius Ishmael Reed, opens tonight. See my interview with Ishmael Reed on Facebook. I got it on emilguillermo.media, also on my YouTube channel. Me and Ishmael talk about his play. I mention Ishmael because, well, you know, he's older. He's an older, revered writer. I love older, revered writers, especially those who have been mentors of mine. And I want to take a second to just make a mention of Joan Didion, who died today. She was 87. She died in New York City. And Joan Didion, of course, a California writer who wrote about everything important between the 60s and the 2000s. I mean, here's what I love about Joan Didion. She made the personal public. She made her personal feelings journalistic, but took it to a higher level. Writers like herself, Truman Capote, Norman Mailer, and then Mailer was the one who said, hey, this is the new journalism. He looked at the writing of these literary artists and stylists and said, this is the new journalism. Mailer coined the term. Didion was a practitioner. Other people since Mailer have said, oh, this is creative nonfiction. Okay, everyone's got a gimmick. But the term was new journalism. It was coined by, well, it was a coin. Now, look, someone's going to get at me and say, no, it wasn't Mailer. Mailer was a practitioner. It could have been Thomas Wolfe, Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, and all the subsequent books that Wolfe wrote, although Wolfe was writing fiction and not journalism. And that was the key. It was journalism in a fictional mode that made the hard J journalists say, hey, is that real? And it meant that journalists could write fiction, but when they were writing fiction, you had to know, it had to be labeled clearly. And then the journalism was written like a novel. So you said, well, you had some credibility issues. Is that true? Well, that's the thing about the stylistic journalism of practitioners like Joan Didion, Norman Mailer, Truman Capote, Thomas Wolfe. And now that generation is leaving us one by one, and we're left with their work. And so now the assessment begins. You'll see a number of things talking about Joan Didion. I mention her because we're in her shadow. Those of us who write journalism or write in a personal way, commentary, we are in her debt. Joan Didion leaves us at age 87. So it's crazy in New York right now. It's crazy. I say it's crazy because everyone, they're showing lines for testing, and now people are saying, "Well, when do we test?" I mean, this thing here, this is like gold. This is the first time I have something that everyone wants or needs. I mean, the self-test, right? I just said, well, I better get this. Just like I masked up, right? And I said, oh, like I reuse masks. I have reusable masks, so I shouldn't buy like hundreds of these. So I got hundreds of masks right now. I have a few of these, but because I was planning my family to get together, but now I'm being the Grinch. I said, look, I have to be 100% certain. Otherwise, I'm saying, no, we're not going to get together yet or now. And everyone wants to know, well, when do you get a test? Well, first of all, you got to find them. If you can find them, then you got to take it 3 days before you get to someplace, and then immediately before you enter the confab or whatever indoor event, family event you're going to. And you got to take it if you show symptoms. If you don't show symptoms and you have limited numbers, you may, I don't know if you want to fudge it, but it's better to use the test if you're showing symptoms, because then you want to make sure, oh, I have a 93% certainty that I'm not, if I get a negative, I have a 93% certainty that I'm okay and I can go in. I'm telling you. Consult the good article in the Times today, good article yesterday in the Wall Street Journal about testing, about when to test. But it seems now vaccines are the way to go. Boosters are the way to go. But you need this too. You need the antigen test versus the lab test. You don't have time for the lab test, so you got to take the antigen test. Everyone is out in the news suggesting that, hey, maybe Wall Street Journal, Omicron found to pose lower illness risks, right? That's to make us feel a little better about going out. But the only thing that's going to make you feel better is if you test. Variant sparks surge in testing across the U.S. Look, here's the thing. Testing, you're going to know where you stand right now before you interact. But the vaccine and the booster is a thing that's going to protect you. And even though they say, here's the Times, Omicron, remember it's Omicron, not Omicron. Omicron is largely found to cause milder sickness. That's to make you feel a little good about how we are being slowly nibbled by Omicron. It's become dominant, right, in the U.S. It's spreading, and it's attacking people who are unvaccinated. It's making breakthrough cases, too, with people who are vaccinated. But it's attacking those more seriously if you're unvaccinated. And that's why, even though it's causing milder sickness, that's generally among people who are vaccinated. The people who are really hard hit are the people who are unvaccinated, and they're the ones who better get boosted. I mean, really, you got to get boosted. You got to get the initial vaccination, and then wear your mask, and then you got to get these. I mean, this is one brand. I was able to get them. But here's the thing. If you can't get them, this is one of the first time when this is like holding, when I was a young kid, to get a ticket to see the Beatles movie. Oh, man. If you got one of those, you got a ticket to Hard Day's Night? Yeah, I got a ticket to Hard Day's Night. Oh, wow. How'd you get that? Well, my dad, he really loves me. Your dad? Wow, he must know the Beatles. No, he's just a Filipino cook. He doesn't know the Beatles. Wow. And that's the first time I ever had something really hot, right? A Hard Day's Night ticket, the movie ticket. Saw it in San Francisco. The New Mission Theater. But this, hey, now I got a test. I'm gonna use it, but at least you're gonna know, right? And they've got to develop better technology. So I mean, these 15-minute antigen tests are interesting. They must have the technology to give us the information right away. There's got to be an app, right? Someone in Silicon Valley is saying there's got to be an app. Soon. I don't know when. Soon. All right, we mentioned Basquiat, Jean-Michel Basquiat, the play, Slave Who Loved Caviar. I talked to Ishmael Reed. That interview I did with Ishmael is on my Facebook page, also on my YouTube channel. Check it out, because what he says about how Basquiat was treated is really alarming, right? It should concern you about the New York art world, the way they treated him, the way they exploited him. Oh, was he happy churning out what would become $1 million artworks in a factory setting? I don't think he was happy. But how do we know? He's dead. I mean, his heirs are benefiting, but while he was alive, it was pretty sordid. Ishmael Reed attacks it in his satirical drama opening tonight at the new theater, or the Theater of the New City in New York City. Like I said, check out tomorrow. I'll have links so you can live stream from wherever you are. I wrote a Christmas column today on the ALDEF blog, and that's at aaldef.org/blog. It is entitled, Oh Christmas Tree, plus how Marjorie Taylor Greene is the wrong color to use, yellow. And I say this, and you'll see my Christmas tree. There's a little ornament, a little reindeer. It's a white reindeer. I don't know. It just happened to be white. That's my name. And there's a little Snoopy at the typewriter. That's kind of like how I see myself, Snoopy at the typewriter. It says New York Public Library. That caption does not belong there. But as I start at my column, hello, all ye yellow people. Or are we yellow people? Or is it maybe just the light? I mean, you see my sign here, Emil Guillermo's Takeout. That, if you're watching us, the color of Emil Guillermo's Takeout is actually the color in between yellow and green, which is actually chartreuse. I think it's chartreuse. I'm feeling chartreuse. But I mention this because, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene has started this controversy when she was at that conservative confab over the weekend, and she was talking about how the Republicans were so diverse. The Republicans are so diverse. She proved it by using a racial slur. She said, I see white people, black people, brown people, yellow people. And then there's talk of freedom and loving America. Well, that's great, except when you call people yellow people, I know, when was the last time you, as an Asian, referred to yourself as yellow? I mean, usually when people say, oh, white people and black people and yellow people, they say the litany in a kind of ironic way. They'll say, oh, and then there was black and brown and yellow and orange and purple people. There's no purple people, but it's done in that ironic way to connote that it's intended to be funny. But Taylor Greene wasn't being funny. She wasn't being ironic. She was being earnestly ignorant, or maybe just ignorant. It just adds up to being more racist than not. I mean, when you look at yellow, like I said, when was the last time you called yourself yellow? And I think most Asian Americans prefer to call ourselves by our ethnicity, not by our color. I mean, whites are whites and blacks and browns are browns, but Asians yellow, we say Asian American or Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, because color divides Asians from ourselves, as well as from whites and blacks and browns. Divides, and not necessarily in a good way. And some of us, of course, some Asians are. I was looking at one Asian American woman on television. I said, God, she's whiter than white. And I don't think it's makeup. And of course, some of us are browner. I mean, Filipinos are, it depends on the light. I mean, there's some light when I look, if I put the light on me, I look really white, but I'm pretty brown. I'm brown. Historically, though, yellow, a word used to put us down. It's a slur. Remember Jimmy Breslin, the New York City columnist, who was suspended by Newsday for calling an Asian American woman a yellow cur? So there you got the color thing, you got the animal thing, and you've just othered us in a classic way. And then, of course, there's no love in the term as a descriptor. Only fear, as in the phrase, yellow peril. So, you want to cut Marjorie Taylor Greene some slack, and you say, well, you can't really. I mean, sometimes Asians refer to ourselves as yellow, but it's a kind of pride, like blacks reclaiming the N-word. So when Marjorie Taylor Greene was saying that phrase yellow, it's like she was going into the NAACP and using the N-word like she was an ally, which she isn't. I mean, the bottom line with Marjorie Taylor Greene is that she's just the wrong color to use the word yellow. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, it brought back the word yellow. When was the last time you said you referred to yourself as yellow? I know the tendency is to see yellow and say, oh, well, that's Asian. And when we use it to describe ourselves, like I said, it's a source of pride. But I just think that anyone who uses the term yellow and is not Asian is using it in a derogatory way. Or if not derogatory, then just plain ignorant, which is bad enough. My column, I talk about Build Back Better, which it's sad because we're going to get a lump of coal, right, for Christmas. There's still a way to get all that we need and all that we want as a community. I'm talking about immigrants, the undocumented who are looking for some kind of answer for deferred action for childhood arrivals, money to fund the program, as well as extensions. Also, the temporary protected status, the TPS program, that was all supposed to be in that Build Back Better, pot of money. That, remember, the Democrats were talking about the use of the idea reconciliation, which is the way they could get it passed, but they need 50 votes. And Manchin's number 50. So unless they can bring in others like Republicans to come in, it's going to be a build back what you can bill, which isn't going to be multi-trillion dollar, may not even be multi May not even be $1 trillion. But it's not over. You got to get out there. You got to continue the fight, right? Your congressman, your member of Congress. And it should also motivate you to register and vote. That is, if Democrats can stop Republicans from restricting our right to vote, the reality is one fight leads to another. I also write about this week in my column, Asian and Black differences. I talked about it a little yesterday. And I keep seeing people say, well, there are some Asians who have a problem with policing. But the New York Times article was trying to make it like it's wholesale. Everyone in the Asian community is at odds with the African American or the Black community over policing. It's not true. We haven't begun really to discuss it nationally. And the truth is, we're all kind of grassroots approaching this. It's community by community. And so one community is doing well, one community is not. But I don't think you can say, generally speaking, that there is this sharp divide in the Asian community and in the Black community that separate us. It's not, I mean, recently there have been a rash of crimes between, where Blacks were perps, Asians were victims, notably in San Jose, California. But you can't generalize and say that reflects the sentiments of communities, just criminals, right? And yet you see instances like that used to fan the narrative of communities at war. And it's not the case. I mean, here's the thing. Stop AAPI Hate is saying that, focusing on this divide over policing is an all too common and often exaggerated narrative of tensions between AAPIs and other communities of color. This is what Stop AAPI Hate tweeted. And they said, hey, look, the majority AAPI community members believe the top three solutions are anti-AAPI hate. The solutions they say are the best: education, community-based initiatives, and civil rights enforcement. But this example of, look, they did a story, they put a fine point on it, and everyone's reacting now because I saw a tweet just now saying, well, some conservative Asians do actually believe that policing is a problem that separates our communities. But it's sort of like the same kind of split on affirmative action. The majority of Asian Americans believe in affirmative action. About 60-40 is the split, same as with the split between Democrats and Republicans. Can't generalize, but you can look at the community and say, well, we are leaning this way. And certainly in terms of being in solidarity with the African American community, we are more together than we are apart. Just look at the Angelo Quinto case. Angelo Quinto, the Filipino American who had his life taken when a police officer in Antioch, California, put his knee on the back of his neck. Same thing as George Floyd. As I say in my column, the truth is Blacks and Asians haven't done anything at the level the Times may have expected. But the truth is communities around the country, Black and Asian, are working together because we all want the same thing: a sense of peace and safety in our communities, a sense of justice when we are done wrong. So these are the topics I discuss in my column on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. Check it out. But I also include my Merry Christmas story. Part one of my 3 Christmas trees story. And I will tell the entire 3 Christmas tree story, my 3 Christmas tree story, on Friday, tomorrow, New Year's Eve. We'll be back at 2 o'clock, and I will read my story. I also share a story with Julian Simeon, another Filipino-American storyteller. And really it's about my story, my 3 Christmas tree stories, how, when I want to get in that Christmas mood, really look for it. I find it like in the early morning when the day is darkest and the sun is about to rise. I sit with my coffee and I plug in the only light in the room, a Christmas tree. And it's that light, it's always about the light. In the morning or at the other end of the day, in the PM, it's gray and it goes from light to dark, especially in the San Francisco Bay Area. Gray day in December goes from danky to dark. And the only light that will illuminate and immediately change the mood is the light of a well-lit Christmas tree. It's life by Christmas tree light. The only light you need at this time of year. Christmas tree light. Not to be confused with my fake tree, which some people might call Christmas tree light. Sort of like Bud Light. Like they say, come on, Emil, get a real tree. No, I love fake trees. I have one now. My love of the artificial tree runs deep. So why get hung up on real when even the light is artificial? Until you see them all together and there's this glow and things go from artificial to Xmas just like that. You don't need a tree to shed pine needles to be magical. Look, I try not to be a tree grump. You may insist on real, and that's fine. But for me, I'll stick with my unboxed, inorganic, perpetual, evergreen, hard plastic, soft lights. To me, that's the feel of Christmas. So I go on, I tell the story about my dad, how he made our tree, the first tree I ever had, plastic, special, modern, eternal. And the tree comes in pieces, right? 5,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, it's like. And my dad doesn't even read the instructions. It was like a tree was its own Ouija board. The pieces found each other. And he had all these pieces. He just knew what it had to look like. The tree has to look like perfect triangles. Stacked one on top of the other, these triangles. All this from pieces of plastic. And every year this would be my dad's job to make the geometry work. 2 right triangles with a perfect hypotenuse and a common perpendicular spine from top to bottom. Oh, this was the ultimate tinker toy. We get the tree. We take a break. So we'd husk some fresh coconuts so that my mother would have the meat, coconut flakes, snowflakes on the brown mochi pastry, cochinta that we'd have for the holiday. We end up with the tree. And then the string of lights. And we put a small train around the tree. And me in footy pajamas holding a cowboy western 6-gun, emulating my then hero, Hopalong Cassidy. Under the tree, I was Hopalong Filipino. Happy, just happy. So that's the first tree. I tell the 2 other trees, the story of the 2 other trees in my life, tomorrow. So come back tomorrow. Got to come back tomorrow. In the meantime, there are some things in the news we still got to talk about. And this is why I bring in my good friend, the professor, College of Ethnic Studies, also because this is going to be our Christmas party. I welcome Professor Daniel Phil Gonzales, College of
Thank you.
Ethnic Studies,
Maligayang Pasko. Thank you,
Maligayang
Mr.
Pasko.
Good to see you.
Meli
Don't worry,
Kalikimaka.
I'm getting a haircut today.
Now
Okay,
you
and
look good. You look good. You look
everybody's. I'm freaking out the neighbors. The neighbors are starting to talk
good.
funny
You,
of it.
you look like Santa Claus. You look like Santa.
Well, this ain't long enough, but yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
a
I'll
little
take that. I'll take
bit.
that.
Well, Dan, we had to have you here so that we could have the semblance of a Christmas party on the.
Okay, I should have brought some eggnog.
Well, that would be good. I mean, but I know there's some things we still need to talk about, and that is all this stuff that Trump is doing just before the holidays.
He's got to be in it.
I,
He needs our attention. He needs
you
to
know,
be in the media.
yeah. I mean, first of all, he's suing the attorney general in New York because he doesn't want to get hauled into court by her. He's doing all this stuff. His media company is now in, engaged with Chinese money.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
that could be pretty testy. And then continues to to balk at, or at least his allies are continuing to not listen to Congress, which has come on in and explain this January 6th business. I guess the latest is there's Michael Flynn. There's also a
Uh,
congressman, Jim Jordan, who apparently knew a lot more than he is letting on about what happened on January 6th. And he's a
you
leader.
know what we've noticed about Jim Jordan? You know how loud and aggressive he is always. In his jacketless white shirt, sleeves
Yeah,
rolled up, a real macho, okay, guy. And then he gets asked simple questions like, "Did you talk to the president on that day?" And he does the stammering. And all of a sudden, he does not look very machismo. He loses all of that. And
yeah.
once he loses all of that, he looks really weak.
He looks like a lightweight wrestler who's wrestling in the heavyweight division, right?
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
go down. Got to go down. And
I don't know. I hope the public is aware that that's his background, right? And
oh
that
yeah, he's
he's been referenced in several personal lawsuits by some of his former student wrestlers who alleged that they were abused by one of the other coaches.
right. Not him, but
Not
other
him
coaches.
personally,
Yeah,
but the question was, did he know anything,
yeah,
and should he have done something about it? Right, and
right.
so
Well,
he's questionable right at the start, but his behavior, particularly in the Trump era, his behavior should be enough to cue people to what kind of character he is, right? But so that's the problem that I have with our communities, and the number of people that still support not just Trump, but generally Republicans. Not all are bad, right? But Republicans like Mr. Jordan and Ms. Green, and
well,
so on, Bolbert.
yeah.
Those kinds of people.
But
You really want to vote for those folks?
Dan, aren't they really the community? Isn't the Asian American community just falling into line with party loyalty?
Yeah, yeah, that's partially true, certainly. But I think different ethnic groups, right? You were talking about true diversity earlier. Different ethnic groups have different priorities. I think ethnic groups that are heavily Catholic, for example, would probably hinge just on abortion, okay, and as a singular issue. Uh, Now, that doesn't mean that's the only reason they're voting for Republicans. But it gives them the most impetus, right, from their moralistic point of view, um, and obviously it's enforced from the pulpit and in their media, right, in Catholic and Christian media.
Yeah,
So that's a sufficient reason for them to vote for Republicans, despite the fact that everything else the Republicans do is anti-immigrant, anti-not white. If you're not white, you're
Well,
not right.
how this has been the forever question with Trump and his ilk. How can they get people to vote against their own best interest? Because people seem to be doing just that when they
Sure,
cast a
sure.
vote. I mean, and I know of Filipinos all throughout the Trump candidacy. I would say to them, Trump would do something crazy, and I would say to them, "Well, what do you think?" They're still with him, and I'd say, and then he'd do something else, and I'd say to back to my Filipino cohorts here, I'd say, "Well, what do you think?" And they'd say, "Well, they're still with him." And this
Yep.
has gone on and on through
Oh yeah.
the 4 years of Trump. It
Yep.
continues in the
All the way
post-Trump
up to
world.
this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have not. And at some point, you have to say, "Well, wait a minute. He's done these things that are against, you know, uh, your self-interest as an Asian American, as a Filipino American, and you are still backing him." And
Yeah.
the answer is yes.
Yeah. Even during the period where people were being actively attacked on the street, even when Filipino nurses
Yeah,
were being assaulted by people suffering from COVID in all of its different forms, and because they're trying to treat the people, and they were told, we're treating you for this COVID thing, and some of them deny that
yeah,
they're suffering from COVID. They actually call their healing professionals liars, and some of them actually attack their healing professionals, particularly the nurses. And
yeah,
so, what they don't, I don't think even the Filipino nurses now I have a lot of connections with Filipino nurses. They're all over my family.
yeah,
Most of them retired now, but I also have connections with current nurses, and especially younger ones that are my former students. And some of them work at the very prestigious institutions like UCSF and Stanford. And they tell me that there are Asian American nurses, and particularly Filipinos, who still vote Trump.
yeah.
You know,
Is it the money? Is it the religious aspect? Because then how do you? I guess you are selective in, what is moral in this area, but not in this area. I mean, it could be the
yeah,
pro,
I think that's
the,
true.
the anti-abortion thing. So they, if they're anti-abortion, they're with them, but they'll overlook a moral failing on another area.
Sure, like open misogyny, right? Consorting with prostitutes,
Yeah,
right? Consorting with a known pedophile.
yeah. Oh, and these are only
All the good stuff, all the
yeah,
all the really good stuff. Any one of those things would have been enough to get another president, any president, right, ejected from office.
yeah,
Okay, and this guy was put up for impeachment twice, and he beat the bullet.
yeah,
Okay. One of the reasons he beat the bullet is because we got folks that support him. So, how can they possibly deny that? It's real simple. Everything is fake. So, he has established, right, that government is fake, not to be trusted. And he established that the media is fake and not to be trusted. So, where do they go? They go to media sources, they go to social media sources, right,
yeah,
that validate their already existing perspective and their position, which they do not want to abandon, right? Simply because they've made this investment in Donald J. Trump and the Republican Party. So
yeah.
I agree with you. It's about team, team. Hey, team.
Well, they're siding with the wrong team, but they're so far in they can't extricate themselves back to the truth.
Yeah,
And so now what we have is one of the major news organizations was wondering, do we have a reality problem where we can't even understand what reality is? It's like, you
well,
know,
you're the guy who's celebrating a plastic tree. I mean,
well, the tree, it,
Oh, I have to confess, man. I We had one of those too. The difference between your story and my story is I was the guy that assembled the tree. Even at
yes,
6 and 7 years old, I was really good with putting things together.
yeah,
My mother said that I was destroying things, but she always caught me with the thing apart and never looked at it when it was back together and working again. So
look,
I yeah.
you strike me as a model airplane guy. And if you made model
I definitely was in that. Yeah, I was
yeah,
into that, and
and you were in the model airplane for the plastic and not for the glue, right? I'm assuming that. I'm assuming that.
yeah, this
Because
was way before. Oh man, I mean, yeah, that's a whole nother issue, man. We got to
this,
talk about that sometime. But
this,
yeah,
oh wait, this
so
was
we
a
had the plastic tree for years. I hated the freaking tree, but it was our tree.
yeah.
And did it still outgas? Did yours like outgas for years? You could
No, no,
smell
no,
the thing,
no, no. We had a plastic. I do not recall the gas.
right? It had a smell.
If well, my our tree was did not have our tree was a rigid plastic. It was sort of like made of the same material, a little better than the green army man. It was sort of like a green army man tree,
Oh,
and
okay,
but so
okay,
it didn't off gas. But now looking back, I know that we were environmentally friendly because we didn't cut down any trees, and
right, right,
we kept the
sure,
same. We had a perpetual evergreen,
right,
and I let my dad do it because he had to feel useful because he did cooking and he did other things. But this was his thing, and I was just there to watch. I was there to watch and appreciate it. But look, it's always, and this is why it didn't matter. Like I said, real tree, fake tree. It was
right,
all
right.
about that light, right? I mean, when the lights are low, and all you have is the Christmas tree light, there's something magical about that Christmas tree light. I mean,
Sure.
you, you
The
go,
ornaments help. Obviously, you could garnish. You garnered it very carefully, and
you don't even.
unfortunately, ours was not green.
y-
Ours was
Oh,
white, and so it looked skeletal.
so
That's
you had a semi artificially flocked tree.
No, it was plastic. It was white plastic.
Why?
Everything.
You know
It
why?
looked skeletal. It really looked skeletal. The only thing that helped was that I talked my dad into getting a light that with a
Uh,
spinning plastic
uh-huh.
screen,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
Oh,
that it would change color. Yeah.
I talk about that too in tree number 2 and tree number 3. I had because this is the thing. Uh I know your skinny plastic tree. We
Skeletal,
I do
skeletal.
because when I saw a tree and I saw the tree as being perfect triangles, right?
Sure.
Stacked on, one on top of another.
Yeah.
But if you if you're like lying down and looking at the tree and then tilt the tree over like that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the tree
I'll join you in
look
that.
the tree looks like a fish.
I was gonna say
It
that the
looks like
tree,
an
especially the
angelfish.
white one, it looked like the skeletal structure of a fish.
Yes, and I said in a column that I wrote back in 2000.
It's a
God,
message from Jesus.
yeah. Well, I said that was, that was a. I told my kids. I told my kid because my kids got me into getting real trees.
Hmm.
I used to
Got
tell
to
them.
do that
I
for the
I I
kids.
said, well, because it got us out of the house, and we went to Half Moon Bay, and
Right, right. So did we. Yeah.
do that tree. And then I'd say, you got to look for a one that looks like a fish, looks like an angelfish, because an angelfish. Oops,
Oh,
I'm tilting here. If you tilt, an angelfish is bloated,
yeah, yeah.
and it has that triangular thing, and it's all
Has
about the angel.
long dorsals that kind of
Lo-
stick out
Right,
there.
long dorsals, and it was kind of it looked like a little sideways fat tree. Anyway,
Yeah.
I, we had fish looking Christmas trees, and then people would say, "Oh, eh, really a fish?" And then they would look at it and say, "I don't see the fish." I said, "Don't you see the fish? The fish is there." Anyway, I I I tell a story. I tell stories of my 3 Christmas trees tomorrow, and you know, you,
We'll
most
look
people
forward to it. We'll look
yeah,
forward to it.
most people have
Yeah,
to.
but see, the other thing, and there's a couple people online too. That one person mentions Biko.
Oh yeah, Biko.
Yeah.
Did you
Uh,
have Biko? Yeah, I had
did your dad make it or did your mom make it?
my mom
Uh-huh.
made Biko, but my
Okay.
mom loved Conchinta.
Okay.
The little brown
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, the yeah, to
Did they
get
make it in? Did they make it in the round version or the one that looks like the heel of a shoe?
no, no, we made the round version. We made the
Oh, okay.
round
Okay.
Conchinta. Did you know that you can spell Conchinta either Cunchita or Conchinta?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
We'll go phonetic. And then as I was looking it up online, Conchita or Conchinta, I think,
Hmm.
is a transgender or some kind of transgender entertainer, apparently.
Well,
Not
things like that
just
happen.
yeah,
Like
but it
certain pastries get equated with their nicknames for genitalia, for
I
example.
I
So
well, I it just like I said, I just had never Googled Conchita before. And there I was surprised to say, "Do you mean Conchita the entertainer?" I said, I don't know about that." But no, I don't I do not mean the entertainer. But I'm sure she has good entertaining songs. But my father, did you have one of these things where like a sawhorse that you sat
yeah,
over
yeah, of course,
and you
scrape
had
out the coconut, Sh-
yeah,
the official shredder.
yeah, and you
How
had
come the girls never had to do that?
well, I don't know. That
It
was
was
kind of
always the guys, man.
because because the little round blade could be dangerous. Could be dangerous, and I'm sure that was why people didn't do. But we had that. We had to have the flakes, so we put the flakes out
Uh-huh.
on over the cachinta, and then we'd serve it in our holiday meal. And now we do have let's see, Salai or Juanita, Salai Wilson says, my
Yeah.
white mom make Biko, but was taught by her uncles. Well,
Yep.
I mean, everyone has a different kind of tradition.
It kind of is the age group too, because
Yeah.
if the moms married before the mid '60s, when the large migration of Filipinos started coming, after '65, um, the older men, right,
Mm.
did the cooking because they were bachelors, right?
Ah, yeah.
And so when the new people came after '65, those guys were still the guys who were doing the cooking, and many of them had worked in major restaurants and all that. And man, I'm sure you remember this.
Yeah.
Christmas time, you did not turn down getting invited to people's houses for stuff. I mean, you sometimes you'd spend 2 days going from family to family, and they'd all, first question as soon as you come in the door is, "Have you eaten?" you know.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah,
Ab-
and you
Absolutely.
had to eat something. You had
Yeah.
to, it was impolite. It was grossly uncool if you didn't humor them and eat something,
Yeah.
and you had to make it look good, man, because they didn't want you to think you didn't like their food,
See, now, Dan, this is the thing about this Christmas because in my previous shows, I've talked about being the Grinch. I canceled Christmas for our family. And I feel a little bad because I see people really getting out there and
Yeah, yeah,
and they're saying, okay, well, we're going to have Christmas, or we're going to be careful, and they don't talk about getting tests, but try to
right.
find some of these. You can't find these tests
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. No,
They're
I
hard to
I
find.
ordered ours way in advance, and so we have a little stock.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, we have a little stock too, but
Hmm.
we're going to have. I mean, apparently you're going to want to have multiple tests. They come two in a
Yeah,
box,
that's right. Two in a
and
box. Yep, yep.
they're pricey. I just bought a few, and I was waiting for the freebie. Biden's going to give us all.
Sometime in January, right?
Yeah,
It's kind of vague, a little vague.
yeah, in time for Martin Luther King's birthday or something. But
Yeah, well, that would be good.
but,
You
but so
know.
all right, so there are a bunch of Filipino families, Asian everyone's getting together. They're flying. I told my kids not to fly in. I'm sorry. We'll get together when it's better. But I'm feeling now that did I did I Grinch out too much? Did I grinch out?
No, not at all. The yeah, Omicron is far more. I mean, it's 5 times, right,
Yeah, yeah.
more
It's
infective.
yeah.
So that's kind of scary, and the news is still coming in, right? So hospitalization is down, death rate is down. I think that gives people a little sense of security that they really need to be careful with that, particularly the unvaccinated people or the partially vaccinated people, the non-boosted folks. You still got to be careful. I mean, we're being extra careful because we old. We
Yeah.
you know,
I know.
uh,
I mean, if
Linda
you
and I
are
are septuagenarians, so
well, if you also, I mean, it depends on your health too. So
yeah,
I can say, all right, I'm healthy, I'm vegan, I'm a little older, but I'm still kind of I mean, I'm hesitant to do anything because I know that when I get a little cold or when I get a little, it's unpleasant. It usually gets worse. It spirals, and I don't want to have that experience. So I choose to be ultra safe. I put a condom on
yeah.
top of a condom. I will. I and I carry an umbrella
Are we going
and
there now?
a
Keep it
raincoat.
above the belt, please, sir.
I'm
Juanita
just.
Sulai Wilson said she's one of us, man.
Oh
Or
yeah.
no, well,
Well,
she's closer to my age than yours. You're a youngster compared. Well, I
yeah.
don't know if she wants me to disclose, but she says her parents were married in 1940. Yeah,
Oh well.
that was not an easy time for them to get married
Yeah.
because the
No.
Filipinos were not legally allowed to marry in the state of California
Not
to
until
white
like
women,
yeah.
not
Not
until
until like
1948.
48. Yeah, I knew it was in the late 40s, and that's
Yeah,
when they decided that we were not Filipinos. Were not well, we were Malay. We
right.
weren't Oriental. We weren't
Well, that
Asian.
was the Roldan case, right?
Yeah.
But there were previous cases where Filipinos lost out. In the Roldan case, Salvador Roldan won that case in L.A.
Yeah.
But within 9 months, the California state legislature passed a new law that included references to Malay people, and and they might as well just put a finger on it saying this means you flip. I mean, they say
So even though Roldan won his case, and
yeah,
some people could look at that case as precedent, the legislature came back.
change.
The state
Yep,
legislature came back and undid it and said,
undid it.
just in case, just in case,
Yes,
we still don't want you to marry
that's right.
white people. Do not
White
marry this
people,
white
we don't
people.
want you to marry white
You
people.
can stand in front of a white wall, but do not
Salvador
stand in
said,
front.
and I'm related to some Roldans, right?
Yeah,
And I often say, even in my classes, that I don't want to know if they sold out the way
yeah,
that Salvador, the way he got off was, no, look at Roldan. It's a Spanish name,
yeah.
and I'm a particular kind of Filipino. I'm an Ilocano, and we're heavily like European, man. We're very Spanish.
Hey, so look, I have the Spanish name and I'm Ilocano, so
Yeah, but you
I should
pronounce
marry.
it Guillermo.
Oh, yeah, the Spanish way, or no, the Filipino way. That's the
The
Filipino way.
Elie.
Really.
It's an Elie.
So wait a minute now, Dan. As I recall, you are Visayan, right?
Half,
Half.
half.
Oh, half,
Yeah.
half,
In
uh,
Tagalog, that's Kalahati. I'll leave it up to you to decide
half
which half
Visayan,
is Ilocano.
so
Yeah, it's
you,
like it's constant civil war.
yeah. So you're
You know,
half Visayan,
between Ilocanos and Visayas.
half Visayan, half Ilocano. I'm half Ilocano, half Tagalog. So
Okay.
I'm at war also.
Okay. Well, it's not as serious though, is it? The Tagalogs do tend to lord over people though. They're
They're Manila.
the culture books and the history books all the way up until the 70s, the 1970s
Yeah,
would be written by people Tagalog centric situation because of Manila, right? All of the universities and all that,
yeah,
and they always made the Tagalog sound like the most, they're almost superhuman,
yeah,
and then they would have these stereotypes of the other groups, particularly the Ilocanos
yeah.
and the Visayans. The Ilocanos were stereotyped as really stingy, very
Cheap.
very
You mean cheap.
kuripot. Yeah,
Kuripot. Maybe
kuripot.
you're cheap, and that's why we had a Christmas tree that was plastic. I didn't say that,
It's
but
recyclable. You're
yeah,
just ahead. You're ahead ecologically. That's why you're big on now.
Yeah, but I just have same tree every year, same tree, same tree, same tree.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Juanita's saying she's making Biko tonight. Okay,
Yes,
what's your address? We
Dan.
can come over and check it out, man.
Dan,
All
this
right,
is
she's kind of proud. Well, Sulai, that gives it away, dude.
yeah. I know. Well,
I mean,
I have a nanny Salai. I had a nanny Salai.
oh, now you're gonna pull the blood relation thing and get invited, right, to
No,
the
no, no, no.
Biko.
But I'm not related to Juanita, but I am. I do. I Juanita is a regular listener of the show, and we have had this discussion because I had a Ninang Laring and a Ninang Salai. And
Okay,
I was partial to Ninang Laring. She was the one who gave me a Christmas tree story, which I will tell on Friday tomorrow.
all
But
right, all right.
Ninang Salai, she was pretty cool too. So anyway, so Dan, uh,
Okay, the food. It's the food, right? Is a
yeah,
big thing.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
it's a big thing, and the Bisayans had another dish, and I've forgotten what the name of it is. So I hope somebody who's Visayan or especially Cebuano, somebody from Cebu. Uh, it's loose rice, okay, but it's cooked with
Crispy,
coconut milk.
crispy, crispy.
No, it's just steamed and
Oh yeah,
loose, so it's steamed rather than boiled, and it has black rice, sweet rice
yeah.
sprinkled with it, and the coconut milk is spiced with ginger. Have you?
Uh,
And then all of that is steamed, and man, I miss that. And so when you said Christmas story, the
yeah,
first thing I thought of, right? We thought about the tree. I did the same. I did the same thing. The other thing I thought of was the food and
yeah,
that particular dish. And I had an uncle Mariano Villa.
yeah.
Okay, that he could cut hair, but he could cook. Yeah, yeah.
Oh
He
yeah,
cut
he's
all our hair,
hey,
and he could cook, man. And the dude cooked that rice dish. I really miss it. So
so kind of
anybody out there?
like a porridge.
No, no. It's just loose steamed rice,
Loose.
you just put it in a bowl, and you could have it with chocolate. That was a big deal.
Oh, crispy, crispy,
You could have it. No, it felt like
like rice.
loose, almost like Chinese rice. Long grain, loose. But
Yeah,
it's the flavoring, man,
yeah.
with the flavor of the ginger, the coconut, and then it had the sweet rich. Yeah, and that
Champorado, like
champorado is the chocolate, isn't it?
yeah,
That's Tagalog, and
yeah.
it's in. Well, Ilocanos had it too, but it was chocolate rice.
That
That's
was
another big thing. That
yeah.
was a
That was
big
the
deal.
word. That was the word I was looking for. Champorado. I was thinking, what is that word? Temperado, champorado. And
No,
yes,
that's the chocolate rice, man, and that's very Ilocano. I think. I don't know. Maybe the Tagalogs are going to claim that too. They claim everything.
no, no. I think we look at. Hey,
They claim good looks, best musicians.
no,
Oh,
the
but you know what? They
Visayas.
credit Cebuanos with being good dancers. You know,
No, 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 no.
so Cebuanos, they want to party all the time.
No, no,
Party,
no.
party, party, dancing, dance.
The Visayans are the beautiful ones. They say, right? I mean, because that's where Imelda was from. Imelda Marcos with
Yeah,
her.
but she looks a japonesa, don't she, man? I mean,
No, she
there's
would
a
say,
rumor. There's a rumor that she's
"Hey,
got a
no
great
rumors here."
granddaddy that was Japanese.
The beauty of the Visayas, right? That's what they would say. But
Yeah.
maybe they had to say that because Marcos was Ilocano.
No, I have I have to agree with you. I have a bunch of beautiful Visayan cousins. Not the ones that think they're beautiful, but the ones that really are.
Hey, look, here's the thing, Dan. They're all beautiful, and that's why I didn't marry a Filipino woman because I was related to all of them. And so, I didn't want a bad
Yeah,
23andMe score
and
come
and my buddies dated all of them too. So
well, actually, I think they did. I think
they
they
did.
did. My
Actually, Linda lived in the same building
yeah,
on Grove Street
with my
with
cousins.
all your cousins. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, well,
yeah.
there were a lot of them. There were a
Oh
lot.
yeah, hey, lots of girl cousins, and
Yeah,
they all got dated heavily.
yeah. So,
They're good looking, They're good looking.
well, yeah, that's my Uncle Mel. My uncle, I mean, all my uncles.
Oh, your Uncle Mel. We ran into him at a 40 something anniversary of World War II veterans
Yeah,
down at Onitsuga Air Base, here locally in Palo Alto or Mountain View, whatever it is. And he hadn't seen Linda in a long time, and she ended up being the tallest of all of those young women. Right, your
really.
cousins are pretty petite,
Yeah.
and so and he looked at her and said, "You're so beautiful." And my wife sitting looking at him like, "You got all these daughters that are really good looking," and then she always wondered about herself, but
Oh,
it
my
was
uncle.
funny.
He
Yeah,
lays.
Mel was cool. I
He
really
can
liked the
dish.
guy.
Yeah, he can dish out the self-esteem. That's good. That's good. Hey,
Yeah, no, he was cool.
so Dan, in the time remaining, well,
What he just says flips are too short, dude.
yeah, is this once we get going, and now we're talking about Christmas, and we're talking about safety, and
Okay.
someone looked it up and said, "Sequate,
Yeah, that's
sequate."
Lorraine Mayari.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got to look it up. I never heard that word. I just
sequate,
knew that I love that dish, but I don't remember that word. I'll look it up and see if there's any other forms. But it
sequate.
was that was delicious. I'm gonna call my fictive cousins and say, hey man, does anybody know how to make that stuff? Because
Make some sequat. Hey, Dan, but before we get off, well, I wanted earlier I talked about this idea of yellow. You know,
yes,
'cause, you know that is a color that people want to say, okay, that's Asian. And you had Margie Taylor Greene who used the word yellow. She was didn't know why she was using it. She thought she was being inclusive, but she was
inclusive. Yeah,
actually being racist.
she's
So
just another ignorant white person.
yeah, I mean, it's ignorance, but Asian Americans, Filipinos, Asian American Filipinos, we're more brown than yellow. I was always bothered by
Well,
the
I
term
have
yellow.
some places on my body that are a little lighter.
Okay, we don't really have to take an inventory now, Dan. Thank you. But I mean, but the
It's
thing,
a little lower melanin count or something. I don't know what it
but the
was.
thing also is, I don't know anyone who has used the term yellow in any way, shape, or form, and say in the last 10 years,
It
really,
maybe
or
even
20
longer,
years,
but
20.
yeah, yeah,
Al-
yeah. I think
Also,
so.
if maybe as a way of a point of pride, saying like, you know, uh, an Asian American journalist I knew called himself a yellow journalist as a way to like thumb his nose at all
Well, and we
yellow.
have a student publication that's it's editor. Everything, the contributions and the editing is all done by students, but it is supervised by a faculty member in Asian American Studies, and it's called Yellow Journal. And
Ah,
it started in the 70s along with Asian American Studies,
right.
and as a um, we did it as a pejorative, reclaiming yellow,
Yeah.
right? During the period of citing yellow peril, right?
Yeah.
And
What
then
was
the
what
movement
was
to
yellow?
yellow power. And so there was a whole yellow power thing. And
Yeah.
even in the 80s, remember Giant Robot, that great
Yeah.
magazine?
Remember?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
claimed yellow power, despite the fact that they embraced everybody, us brown folks as well, right?
So Dan, tell me the first time yellow peril was used, was that the Chinese exclusion, that the fear of that, uh, that in quote unquote invasion, or
Right.
was it, or
Yeah,
was
that was it. That was the beginning of it.
yeah,
But it got popularized in the first decade of the 20th century with all of the exclusionary federal regulations that were anti-Japanese. They wanted to make it generalized, but they really were aiming at Japanese because Japanese were starting to actually establish businesses
yeah,
and they were farming
yeah,
and they were starting to establish relationships with the hotels and restaurants up and down the Pacific coast
right,
Yeah, so they were starting to become actually, even though they had smaller plots, right? Smaller pieces of land
Yeah.
than the white folks. They made those that land very productive.
Yeah, but
Bringing skills with them from Japan, right?
yeah, but the first time was with the Chinese exclusion in the 19th century, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that we heard the term yellow peril,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so
It
and
was
then
coming out of New York magazines.
yeah,
Yeah.
and this is the thing. It stays in our history. People might pick it up wherever they pick it up, but then they use it in a modern sense, and it's just wrong. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene when
Mm.
she used it, and so I know that a lot of students now are discovering Asian American students because there's more access to Asian American studies, Asian American history. You were at the forefront, 1968, College of Ethnic Studies, Asian American Studies at San Francisco State. Now, I think we are like that's more than 50 years ago.
Yeah. You
And so
keep
now we
reminding me of that, man.
well, it's yes, but you must feel a little gratified that now younger people are looking at this because, in
Sure.
our day, people would
Yeah.
look at Asian American studies, detractors would say, "Oh, why are you studying basket weaving? Why are you studying that stuff that has, no value?"
uh,
And
yeah.
now we see the value. The value is we know something about us, we know something about our place in the world, we know about what we've been through, and we know what
Yeah, but what's the motive though? Why do you think people are now more interested in actually learning an academic point of view about not only our history and culture, but our relationship to the political environment globally and nationally? Why do you think they're doing that?
they're doing it because the world lives in ignorance, and so do we. And so someone has to go forward and say, "Hey, here's the truth." Right? It's a matter of the truth because the sources will remain hidden. I mean, I talked to a young student from Harvard the other day. I'm going to put her out on my podcast, the interview. But she talks about how she's going to get some information about that's in the Widener Library at Harvard, and it's so far deep into the belly of our
Yeah.
like 6 floors down. It shows you how unimportant it really is, or how buried they want to keep this
Right.
information. And she goes back there once, she goes back there a second time. She's the only one who's touched it, and it harkened back to my day when I was there. Oops. It harkened back to my that was Ferdinand Marcos. Did not talk no, yeah. So no, no. Seriously, the thing is, it's like no
Careful,
one has
careful, man. We're
valued.
happy Ilocano, we're
Yeah,
happy Ilocano, so you got
yeah,
to be careful. Right?
yeah. No one has valued this information for so long, and now we are valuing it because now we need and want the truth. Now the truth is valued.
There you go.
That's why I see it. Because
Okay, I like it.
we
Well,
live in we
see,
live in
the
ignorance.
drive comes from the racialized circumstances that now confront everybody in this society. You can't run away from it now. You
Yeah,
can't run away from it. Everything is so racialized, right?
yeah,
And one party in particular, right,
yeah.
is responsible for that. And I've been saying that for for probably close to 50 years, but I've always been seen as that radical, is communist, is saying those things. And then I met with denial, right?
Yeah,
My own mom would question why I got paid for teaching that stuff.
yeah.
She'd
Why are
say
you
she
feeling
didn't
this way?
believe.
Yeah,
Kids at church, right, at Epiphany Parish would say, "Are you the parents of Professor Gonzales?" And she'd say yes, and kind of like worried about what's going to happen next. They say, "Oh, he's so bright. He's really given me a lot of information that makes it sense of the way Filipinos are in American society and all that kind of stuff." And
yeah,
she still would wonder, why does he get paid for that? So
yeah.
That's it. She didn't herself did not think it was that important. But then when we would engage with, sometimes I would bring some of my friends over, particularly the visiting scholar Juan Francisco from University of Philippines, and then she would engage in conversation with us. And when he was talking about those subjects, it was fine. But it was only when I was engaged in the discussion that that suddenly what came out of my mouth was dubious.
Well,
What came out of
wait, that's because what he was saying was Philippine history. She saw the Philippine context, maybe, and what you were saying was Philippine American,
sure, it's
which is
apocryphal. It's apocryphal.
well, it was just too close to home, too recent. It's not dusty enough,
Well,
you know.
I think it comes also from her generation thinking, that our presence here wasn't as significant as our trying to assimilate and
Yeah,
acculturate, and our parents' generation was heavy into that, right?
yeah,
When we get questioned, why don't you speak Tagalog? Remember that?
yeah.
And we answer that, well, our parents didn't raise us on Tagalog, and I also answer that, well, neither of my parents are Tagalog.
Well, how about this though, Dan? I mean, if they didn't speak to each other, like if you have a mixed marriage Filipino
Yeah.
family, like Ilocano and Tagalog, they
Hmm.
had to speak English.
They did.
English was the language. I mean,
Ilocano, Visayan, and
I'm
well,
speaking
the
the language.
Visayan women though, and Tagalog women usually would pick up some of the Ilocano language,
Yeah,
because the men would not pick up. Some of the men would pick up Tagalog, but not Cebuano. I
yeah.
never heard an Ilocano man, pick up Cebuano.
Well, because is it that really a language? Is it really a language that our people talk? Just kidding. Yeah, of
They
course.
just party all the time, and they spend too much money.
Of
they,
course, I think their language is the music
they-
because the way they dance
Uh,
so nicely. Oh,
they
yeah,
just sit under the coconut tree with the guitar, and then they sing all that love songs. It's
yeah.
they don't, and they spend their money. They just I know we grew up with those stereotypes, and it's just funnier. We can laugh at it now, but people who took
Yeah.
that shit seriously back in the day. It
Well,
was
yeah,
really. uh,
that's true.
I am not
Well,
Ilocano.
so
Watch, I'm not Ilocano. Watch me. I'm going to spend money right now in front of your face. How much is that? I'm going to buy it. I don't care. What's the price? I don't care.
yeah, get the money. Yeah.
Take it.
So, well, it's funny. It's true. But but they were cheap. But boy, when they found something they believed in, and they were a lot of them were gamblers too.
Oh, you're going to bring that up?
No, we should
See, a lot of
because
the Ilocanos, though, they sent money back to the Philippines like it was going out of
oh
style.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I got cousins galore that went to college because my dad sent money back, and my mother too. I mean, she sent money back, and their whole families where all of the kids got educated and were able to go to college because of
look,
the
you hit on
remittances.
something. This is the reason why, this is why they came here. I mean,
Yep,
they came here to work. The money went back.
that's
I
right.
can, I always had a room. I had no bedroom. My bedroom was always the living room. I would take my pillow and my blanket at night and sleep in front of the TV set. That was the perk, right? Because
Yeah,
my
it's perk.
room,
Yeah,
that
get
was
to
a little
stay up
perk.
past 8 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah, because my room, what would have been my room, was rented out to a Filipino guy who was known by the family, who came to America, who was sending back money to his family back in the Philippines. And that is pretty standard for families, who came in our generation, parents who came in the 20s or had
Hmm.
family
Hmm.
in the 40s and 50s. This was
Yep.
we had, and the San Francisco railroad flats, right? The
Right.
railroad flats with one long hallway and all the rooms
Yeah.
jutting out from the main hallway, and then
Right.
the family room at the front and the dining room, kitchen in the back.
Right.
That was Filipino railroad San Francisco Railroad Flat.
Sure.
Um,
Sure. And
and
right, and there were what 3 floor flats. The buildings were 3 floor flats with the basement apartment. Right.
yeah,
There was
3 or 4. So I mean, I think the real tall ones, like in the Fillmore.
sure.
I mean, they were tall, and I mean, that was those are the flats that you would see in the Fillmore or in the that area, Hayes Valley.
Yep.
There was one. My uncle Joe had a place on McAllister that
Right.
he was right next to this store that had a sign that said Hot Point. Remember that on McAllister, the Hot
Sure.
Point sign there,
Right.
and sometimes it would flash Hot Point, and I always my joke was, oh, this they think this is a whorehouse now. Uh, Hot Point, and Hot Point was just
uh,
like an appliance.
yeah, these are some of the male things that you got. Yeah, yeah.
But
I remember
the
one time as a kid, I thought it would be a good cover up to like put on some Old Spice.
yeah.
And I used too much. So I was like fumigating the buses right when I got on with Old Spice, right? And one fictive uncle, a friend of my dad's, said, "Hui, you smell like you just came from a whorehouse." Ay.
I don't know. These are the Filipinos in the Fillmore stories.
Oh yeah.
I drove around the Fillmore the other day. It's so gentrified now.
Oh, well,
I
they
can't.
made some of the families held on to those houses until just recently, right?
I know. Well, I
But
hope
when
they.
they offer you $2 million for freaking, the
Yeah,
house,
I hope they made out because
they
I,
made out. I mean,
yeah,
all
'cause
the families I know made out.
I was driving through. I got up to Sacred Heart Church on Fillmore,
Oh yeah,
and I thought, when does it? What
that's where
happened to the
Linda
black
went.
area?
Yeah.
What happened?
Oh no, it's not African American anymore.
It,
No.
it's not. I mean, I was kind of surprised because I grew up on well, Western Addition, Fillmore first, but ultimately the Mission.
Yeah.
We moved out to 19th and Guerrero, but when I was out, we grew up around Fulton and Masonic, and Fulton and Lion,
Fulton
Fulton and
and Masonic.
Central.
Oh, right there. Yeah.
Yeah, right there.
That's near
Couple blocks,
USF. It's right next to USF.
right
Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
way down the hill.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, but the soccer field is right across from you, isn't it?
and no, I'm Fulton. I was Fulton and Central, Fulton and Lion, down there.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Down,
that their soccer field was on Fulton and McAllister, I think, up
up,
there.
up.
No, I mean not Fulton, but McAllister and Masonic. Yeah,
See now, everyone who's living in New York or listening to this or
they're
somewhere else
saying,
is
"What
saying,
kind of crap is that?"
this old San Francisco stuff here. Well,
Yeah,
this is old San Francisco. Anyway, so Dan, let's get back to Christmas. Or we'll wrap it up. Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's pretty
the
close.
Panhandle. Yeah, we were in the
Yeah,
Panhandle.
yeah,
Off
and
the coast.
VASF.tech. That's cool. There's a space before the dot. I'll check it out. Thank you, Barbara Wilbert.
Hey, so Dan,
Christmas. Oh,
Christmas. You're
the
gonna have
other
a
thing was I had a couple of fictive, uncles. I never understood the relationship to my father, but every Christmas there were two fictive uncles who would stop by and drop off gifts for each, one for each of us, my dad, my mom, and myself. And he always picked really great quality gifts, right? And they came gift wrapped from the best stores, downtown stores and stuff.
so
One of
name
them,
one kind of gift. One kind of gift.
oh, he brought. Sometimes he brought toys or a toy along with an article of clothing, but most of the time it was an article of clothing. So it was sweaters. But one of my favorites was when I was probably around 7 or 8 years old. He brought a wool robe, a
Ah,
really nice, pure wool, very warm, very well constructed robe, and I wore that. And unfortunately, I grew by the time I was 9, but uh,
oh,
but
you
it
should have.
was really one of my favorites. And then
You
the
should
other
have.
one was he
Wait,
bought a
wait.
toy.
Was it boys husky size?
I don't know. I don't even know what the size was. It was a little big when I
Oh,
first put it on, but I grew into it.
okay, good.
Anyway, he was just a real gentleman. And the guy used to work and live in one of the old mansions in oh god, what's the name of that not Burlingame, but right next to Burlingame, high end
Oh yeah, right there by
Hillsboro,
the golf course.
Hillsboro.
Oh, Hillsborough. Yeah.
Yeah, and there were times when my father would go there to just to see him, and he would go to the back room and knock on a kitchen door, or call him on the phone or something before we went there. Um, this 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 house had its own gas pump. They had their own gas pump, man, and I guess it was left over from, like, the depression and World War II, and they had their own tennis court, their own swimming pool, all of that stuff. And he
So was this guy? He was like a caretaker at the
he was
house.
uh, he was a cook and butler.
See, now that
Yeah,
is why when I went to Harvard, it was kind of weird when I would hire myself out as I was part of an agency, and I used to I used to do dinners and bartend and do all that to make extra money, and I felt like I it was new to me, right? But for the people who I
was
worked
serving.
for, yeah, it was like, oh well, thank goodness
This
you're
is
the right
normal.
rate. Yeah, this is
this
and
is this is
yeah.
you're upholding tradition, dude.
Yeah, oh, you're good at this. Oh,
You
yeah.
carried that folded white towel over your left arm with such perfection,
Any
Yeah.
generation, sir, sir. But it was, but
But did you get treated okay? Were you treated okay?
well, they let me eat and drink with them, and
Oh,
then
well, that's different.
well, but
That's way different.
then they said, "Oh, should not you be working? Should not?" It made me feel guilty. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I got to go back to work. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So yeah, it was. But your story just took me back to that. How you know that
Yeah,
was.
I think he worked for the Corelli family. They owned a couple of liquor stores. So I don't even remember his last name. It's horrible, and there were people like that. There was another guy that was a merchant marine,
Yeah.
and so he was often back for holidays only, because he was out, 6 months to a year, never got married, right? Those
But
kind of
see,
guys.
this is what Filipinos did, though. I mean, this was they
Yes,
came
they did.
here. They came here in these kind of roles. Even in the 20s, when my dad came here, I would look at the manifests of the immigrants, and some of them would have um, they would have destinations where they were going, and like so they would be going to a household that
Right,
they were hired in the Philippines to come here and work in the household and be the valet or
right.
be the caretaker. My dad and his brother, they came here. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. They're just here. We are. We're here in America. Oh, depression. Oh, I'm so depressed now. So they came. Yeah, they were happy they came, but it
Yeah,
was very tough. Hey, look. So Dan, we got to wrap it up. But
yeah, yeah.
tell me. So you have. I appreciate you coming here and talking about the food and your tree and because I wanted to have a Christmas party of sorts. And so this is our Christmas party. Tomorrow I'm going to do a story. I'll tell the holiday story at 2 o'clock. I have my god brother slash cousin, Julian Simeon. We're going to tell stories and his is recorded. I'll tell it live, but it'll be tomorrow. And I just appreciate you coming here and sharing these tales about history and about Filipinos. And really, thank you
Yeah,
for
we get into it a little bit, don't we?
yeah.
Well,
Well, I'll
you
put
know
this
what?
up.
I'm going to be appropriate for the New Year's,
Yeah,
and
what's
I'm
up?
going to have a little cocktail. All
You
right.
are
So
right now.
next week.
Oh, next week.
Well, maybe, but I mean, yeah, I guess so. I got to have lunch first, though.
Yeah, nice.
Um, but next week, if we come to get together again,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
gonna
we.
have a cocktail on the side, so that in a nice glass, so that I can drink right in front of you.
Oh, for the new year, for the
Yes,
New Year's
yes.
coming. Oh yeah, definitely next week for the New Year, we'll sort of do like greatest hits and that kind of thing. And Oh, everyone likes the fact that we are doing it sober now, and they like the fact that we will be drinking next week.
Okay,
Next
speak for yourself.
week.
No, no, it's cool.
So, all right,
Okay.
Dan Gonzales, thank you very much. So
Thank
we
you
have,
for you, those of you who are with us live right now. And for chiming in and giving us some references too. I'm going to have to check them out.
yeah, well,
Um,
and Nicholas Chen, always a good person who checks us out. I think Nick's in Asia, wonderful color and texture. Thank you. I'm the softer, nicer, smoother one. He's the rougher,
I think he's
darker
talking
one.
about my sparse beard. Taipei. All right. That's a
So
whole
yeah.
nother thing we got to talk about, the relationship between the
Oh,
Taiwan and
Nick's in Taipei. Yes, Nick's in
yeah,
Taipei.
he
So
says he's in Taipei, and we got to talk. I got to go there, Nick. Nick's got to give me some guidance because I really want to eat Taiwanese food. Because they've been really true to
yeah,
the older Chinese culture and all that stuff, and they got a lot
yes,
of organic, vegan stuff. Six
yeah.
a.m. rise to do takeout.
It's
Okay.
early in the morning there.
Yeah. Hey.
Thank you,
Good for
thank you.
you, Nicholas Chen, and Merry Christmas, man.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
well, yeah.
terrific.
We'll come, Nicholas. We'll come.
Hey,
And
hey.
and
We be foodies,
yeah.
even though my host here is vegan. We be
Well, yeah.
foodies.
I'm sure
We're
we'll
still
find some
foodies.
vegan stuff. I'm
Oh yeah,
tofu with everything, and
yeah, yeah,
that's the thing I hear about Taipei. That great food,
yeah.
great food, and
We
we
eat our
we are
way in and then out. Okay.
yeah. That and I appreciate Nicholas for sharing that. We're going to show up. We're going to show up.
we
We're going to
we
take
got to plan that, man. We got to do that. I'm serious.
the
We
next
get get this COVID thing out of the way.
yeah,
You
the
know?
next Greyhound we're taking to Taipei.
I don't know. Greyhound to Taipei. I don't know.
Okay. And then let's see.
They must have really fat tires or something. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, and then
All
before
right,
we
dude.
go, before we go, let's give a shout out to Lorraine Malagayang Pasco,
Malagayan Pasco.
Manikong,
You got Manigong. Baon
Bagong
taon. Bagong taon.
Bagong Taon,
Yeah.
Bagong. See,
Bagoong taon.
Bagong,
Yeah, that's
Bagong
good
Taon.
too.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, and also for the Hawaiians, Meli Kalikimaka, right?
Okay.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
your accent is a lot better
What
in
Meli?
in 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 Hawaiian than it is when you say Malagayang Pasco. That hurts.
Meli Kalikimaka. Yeah,
Okay.
I live there. I live there in
Yeah.
Meli
So,
Kalikimaka
well, but
for a
how
couple
does that
years.
explain your lack of proper pronunciation of the Tagalog or the Ilocano? At least you do when you do your Ilocano act, you do really well though. You roll your R's
Oh
like
no,
there's no tomorrow.
I do not roll them. I do not roll them.
Roll your R. You got to roll it.
I
Narigat,
just
rigat.
I do not roll. All right, so
Thank you,
Dan,
Lorraine.
yeah, Dan, really thank and Merry Christmas, thank you, and mask up, test frequently.
Right on, right
I
on.
will. Merry Christmas and happy. Well, we'll talk to you before,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
thank you
Okay.
as
Next
always.
week we'll do some New Year stuff. What around resolutions? What kind
Year
of resolution?
year in review. Year in
Oh,
review.
this is a
Year in
nasty
review.
year, man. But
It's a bad
with
year.
some
2020.
gains. There was some gains though, some positive. You
Yeah.
notice the turn in the media is now saying, "Wait, Biden got stuff done."
Well,
You
the
know.
thing is, when he said this is not March 2020, you look at the graphs of COVID, and
Oh
March
yeah,
2020 is here, and where we are now is here,
yeah.
and that's not because of his fault. It's because of the way the world is. But we are not March 2020. We're in a different, even slightly more dangerous time, and
Well, yeah.
keep your guard up, right?
But the hospitalizations are down. Even for people who are unvaccinated. So that's kind of good news. Then we got the pill coming out.
Oh yeah, so you won't get
So
pregnant. Oh, no, you might get pregnant. You won't get COVID.
Yeah, you might. Yeah, yes, yeah.
I got
That's
to get
right.
the right pills. You got to
Wait,
get the
I
right.
can't wait to see what the disinformation wagon, rolls out, for that thing. We still got the, I'm debating whether or not to leave Facebook entirely. I haven't posted anything on Facebook forever, but I
That is
do check in on my friends and stuff. So,
that is a good point because we do a lot of our show on Facebook,
uh-huh.
and I think we're going to have a you can do it if you see yourself as the good.
That's right.
You're the good in Facebook versus
That's
the
right.
bad, misinformed part. But
Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know that the stuff that I was putting up, which was all social commentary and political, criticism. I don't know that it was really making that much of a difference. And
well, you got to put it out. Look, they sometimes nix me. I have to be verified as a news source or news organization, and then that's the only reason why I get to do what I do. Otherwise, they shut me down. So, or
wow, I didn't know that. We should have a conversation about that.
sure, sure.
What they're screening. Because
Well,
you say some things that are pretty critical, but they're certainly not the kind of thing
uh,
that would encourage people to do violence.
it is. Yeah, what I do is still journalistic in terms of being fact based. I
Yeah.
do journalistic opinion, which is a part of the journalistic tradition. I'm not in the rabble rousing insurrectionist tradition,
Oh no.
and that that really distinguishes what I do from the average citizen journalist. But it really is in the realm of when you're talking
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
threat.
obviously, yeah, you're doing
Yeah,
that, and Lorraine Moliere is also a journalist and a public relations person, and so she should also join us in a couple of conversations when we talk about this stuff. It's really
sure.
interesting. She's also a professor at Sacramento, but Sac State, but
Zach say, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." All right.
yeah.
Well, listen, Dan,
Hey, yeah,
it's
it's
good to see
great
you.
time, good
Uh,
time. We
um,
kept it above the belt pretty much. You
man,
know,
Merry Christmas. Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas to you, Maligang Pasko.
Okay.
I'm gonna go try and get that recipe for that rice dish, man.
All right.
Okay,
All
I'll
right.
tell you how it goes.
All right. There's Dan Gonzalez, Professor Dan Gonzalez, my friend. I've known Dan a long time. I will show you a picture of Dan and I when, oh man, back in the day when I was, we were going to Philippine Optimist Club events as teenagers, I think, or out of college or something. I mean, you'll see it and you'll say, oh my God, what happened to you guys? Okay. Anyway, all right. So at this point, it is time to say goodbye. The Emil Guillermo Orchestra plays. When we get to this part of the show, we have a little fun. We do a little news. We have a little fun talking about the news. People all over the world, if you're in Taipei, Bay Area, California, New York, wherever, you know, we we loosen up because life is complicated, serious, but it's fun. Talk about history. And like I said, you get to this part of the show and maybe you think, "Oh, I don't belong. I don't." You're distracted. You feel bad. Something's right. Well, this is the part of the show you come to when you want to feel good, when you want to know that hey, you belong. I tell you to hug your elbows, close to the body, because it works. You belong. You're good. You're worthy. No shame. No shame. No shame at all. Feel no shame. Don't feel shame. It's not right. I'm trying to fix my computer here. Oh well. So, thank you for being here. Tomorrow we will do holiday story time. I'll do the rest of my Christmas tree story. There are three Christmas trees I talk about. And one of them involves the birth of a baby. Oh my God. I've got to see that. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Pacific, live here. Catch this on my recording at amok.com. You can also see it on emilguillermo.media on Facebook, on the YouTube channels under Emil Guillermo, on Twitter at Emil Amok. Thank you. Thank you for being here. If you've started enjoying the holiday, Merry Christmas. But I'll be back tomorrow. So, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Till next time. Emil Guillermo here. Maha.